All right, yo. I think we're back. You know, we just went in the first article. It was crazy. I guess let's scroll back up in case somebody has to rewatch this and they're like, yo, why is it clipped? We ain't even get into it yet, but it cut. The feed dropped, so we're starting over. Read it again from the top, the article.
As Trump's tariff threat looms, what would a U.S.-Canada trade war mean? Experts say 25% U.S. tariffs, along with retaliatory measures by Canada, will hurt economies of both countries.
Okay. So scroll down. It's going to explain.
Montreal, Canada. Donald Trump is less than a month away from being sworn in as the next president of the United States. And the Republican leader is set to usher in a number of serious domestic and foreign policy shifts.
The devil is coming. Come on.
In advance of Trump's inauguration of January 20th, countries around the world have been preparing for another, quote, America First administration that could drastically alter their relationships with Washington.
So everybody's preparing for Trump to come in and shake things up. He's not going to do things as traditional politics is run. Scroll down.
For Canada, a top U.S. global ally, the countdown to Trump's second...
Now, I want you to read. That's important right there. It says, for Canada, a top U.S. global ally. Go ahead.
The countdown to Trump's second term has also been a countdown to a looming threat that could upend the Canadian economy in years of strong trade ties between the neighboring nations.
Here's why. It's going to explain.
Latest last month, Trump said he planned to impose 25% tariffs against Canada as well as Mexico if the country did not do more to stem irregular migration and the flow of illegal drugs over its border with the U.S.
So he says, I'm going to put a 25% taxation with Canada and Mexico if they don't stop migration and illegal drugs from coming into the U.S. He's not even in office yet. This is what he's threatening. He said, when I get in there, if y'all don't help make sure that people are not crossing my borders that should not be here and people are not bringing drugs into my country, 25%. Both sides. Now, remember what we just read, a top U.S. global ally. Scroll down. This is next door neighbor. The man is crazy, and I love it. I love it. Go back up a little bit. I want that next paragraph that was right under it. Nope, you going too far. Come on now. You're gonna make us dizzy. The plan, which has drawn widespread right there. You ain't had to move. Just meant scroll down, like, you know what I mean? Drop it a little bit so we can keep reading. Come on.
The plan, which has drawn widespread concerns for Canadian politicians, will come into effect on January 20th as one of my many first executive orders, Trump said on his Truth Social website. While Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has stressed the need for dialogue and cooperation, Trump's warning has thrown Canadian politics into disarray.
He said it has thrown Canadian politics into disarray. They are panicking. Scroll down. Let's see why. Scroll down. Keep scrolling down. Here's what you need to know. It's going to explain what the taxation would do. Keep scrolling. We're not going to watch the video. We're going to read. All right, right there. First off, what did Trump say exactly?
First off, what did Trump say exactly? In a post of Truth Social on November 25th, Trump said he planned to, quote, charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States.
So everything that is brought into the United States, he's taxing at 25% for them to bring these items in. Go ahead.
Quote, this tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in a particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country, the Republican president-elect wrote.
So Mexico and Canada is your fault. I know I got borders and I got people guarding my borders, but it's not my fault these people are bringing drugs and illegal immigrants into my country. It's your fault, and if you want to bring anything in here, it's going to be 25% taxation on you. Trump is crazy. Keep reading.
Quote, both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to easily solve this long-simmering problem. We hereby demand that they use this power, and until such time that they do, it is time for them to pay a very big price. How did Trudeau respond? The Canadian Prime Minister spoke to Trump the same evening that he threatened the tariffs. Quote, We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call, Trudeau told reporters the next morning. Quote, this is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do. He said, adding that he stressed to Trump the importance of maintaining strong ties between Canada and the U.S. In late November, Trudeau made a surprise visit to Mar-a-Lago, Florida, for talks with the U.S. president-elect about the way forward. The Canadian government also unveiled a series of measures last week that is said will bolster security at the U.S.-Canada border. But while the Prime Minister has urged Canadian opposition leaders and provincial premiers to join united, quote, Team Canada approach to the incoming U.S. administration, he remains under pressure to do whatever it takes to avoid the tariffs.
That's important right there. It says he remains under pressure to do whatever it takes. Figure out this situation. This is going to hurt us. That's what's going on in Canadian politics, right? So this is why it happened. Now, watch what it says about the relationship and what will happen. I just want you to read according to the U.S. Census Bureau.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau data for 2024, through October, the U.S. exported more than $293 billion worth of goods to Canada, while imports from its neighbor to total nearly $344 billion. That made Canada the U.S. second largest trading partner behind Mexico, accounting for 14.4% of total trade.
So the U.S.'s biggest trading partners are Mexico and Canada. He's telling them, you don't stop the drugs and illegal aliens from coming over my country, you're going to pay 25% for everything you bring into this country. It's going to impact both countries. Scroll down. Let's see what's being traded. What goods are being traded? This guy's an idiot, man. I was reading this. I'm like, yo, he's crazy. He basically telling his neighbor, if you cross this line, you don't stop those squirrels that's coming from your backyard into my backyard, you ain't going to have no water at your house. Ain't going to be nowhere for you to park on the street. You can't do nothing on this block. Don't even look at my house. So what he's doing is he's creating enemies of the people closest to him. We just read they're one of the top trade allies, and we're reading now that Mexico and the U.S. are the top two trading partners of the United States. And he said 25% for both of you. Now, what is being traded to Canada specifically? Watch.
What goods are being traded? Canada exports a range of products to the U.S., including most notably petroleum. The country and the U.S. largest foreign energy suppliers.
Now, gas prices are already high in California, man. They're already high. I mean, if we look it up, it's probably about $5-something, right? $5.40. Right? $4.90? Yeah, okay. It's going to go up. That's my point. You paying for premium going to go up. Go ahead. I heard a damn brother say, I'm going to walk. Trump going to make me walk. Go ahead.
60% of American crude oil imports came from Canada in 2023, up from 33% a decade earlier. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration Research Group, Canada sent about 97% of its crude oil exports south of the border last year. The vast majority of those supplies came from the oil-rich province of Alberta. It also exports motor vehicles and parts, forestry products, chemicals and plastics, and minerals to the U.S., as well as supplies of electricity. On the flip side, the goods that Canada imports from the U.S. are similar to what it exports. The country imports motor vehicles and parts, as well as energy products, from its southern neighbor. Canada also imports machinery, transportation, equipment, and chemicals and plastics, among other things. Quote, fully integrated U.S.-Canada supply chains exist in dozens of sectors and hundreds of industries, explains Roy Norton, a global fellow at the Wilson Center think tank in Washington, D.C. Components made in one or the other country routinely comprise part of the final product coming off the assembly line in the other country. The effect of this integration has been to keep prices down in both countries, enhancing the global competitiveness of U.S. and Canadian firms.
Yep, go ahead.
All right, so what effects would a 25% U.S. tariff have on Canada? Economists and the other experts have been clear that 25% tariffs will hit Canada hard.
That's the whole point. Scroll down. I just want to get a little bit more on this, and then we could go on to the next article. It says Canada exports would drop. Read that.
Canadian exports will drop and the country's gross domestic product will fall 2.5% by early 2026. Davenport said inflation would reach 7.2% by the middle of next year, and 150,000 layoffs will push the unemployment rate to 7.9% by the end of 2025.
Scroll down. Let's see how it hit the U.S.
What about the impact on the U.S.? Given how integrated the U.S. and Canadian economies are, the United States will be hurt by blanket tariffs as well. The Oxford Economics report said that 25% U.S. tariffs and similar retaliation from Canada will push the U.S. into what's known as a, quote, shallow recession, or when some parts of the economy are doing well while others are struggling.
So certain industries would take a hit. Scroll down. Scroll down. Believe it gets specific. Right there. U.S. imports from Canada.
U.S. imports from Canada are heavily concentrated in products that make up a big share of middle-class consumption baskets. Oil, natural gas, motor vehicles, food.
Whoa, what's that one?
Oil, natural gas, motor vehicles, food.
Food. Go ahead.
And building supplies, meaning that tax increases will
be highly visible. All right, give me the book of Obadiah, chapter 1. Let's read verse 1. And then give me the other article. While we read this. Obadiah 1 and 1. Come on. He's stuck. Where's Obadiah? After Amos. Yes, sir. 1 and 1.
Obadiah chapter 1, verse 1. The vision of Obadiah. Thus said the Lord God concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let rise up against her in battle.
So the ambassador is going to rise up against America. But here's the point, verse 2 and 3.
Verse 2, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised.
Things like this is why America is going to be put down, because they're going to be greatly despised in the earth. Acts like this. My man didn't even get in office. He said, 25%. I'm going to hurt your economy. 150,000 people about to be laid off. 7.9% of your population is going to have unemployment. All because I'm like, you're the reason that immigrants are getting into my country, and I have people at the border. It's your fault. Trump is an idiot. Keep reading, watch.
The pride of thy heart has deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that said in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?
Who's going to
Does liberal party. He will remain in both roles until a liberal party. He will remain in both roles until a replacement is chosen.
Scroll down. Go ahead.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada said on Monday that he will step down in the coming months, bowing to an angry electorate at a time of uncertain economic prospects and political infighting.
So there's political infighting going on in Canada. Why? Because of the threat of America. They understand Trump ain't playing with them. This is the type of stuff he's doing. Watch.
The announcements, which came amid a gridlock parliament, left Canada in political flux, just as the incoming Trump administration has vowed to impose punishing tariffs on Canadian imports.
We just read about those punishing tariffs. Scroll down. Scroll down. There's a certain part I want. Keep scrolling. Just take your time. Keep past this. All right, read right there.
In December, Mr. Trudeau's deputy prime minister and finance minister.
So his deputy prime minister and his finance minister did what?
Chrystia Freeland abruptly stepped down.
Interesting. Go ahead.
Ensuing a stinging rebuke of his leadership and stewardship of the country. Ms. Freeland, who had been a close ally of the prime minister, accused Mr. Trudeau of having engaged in, quote, costly political gimmicks and being ill-prepared to face the challenge posed by President-elect Donald J. Trump.
You can't fix this problem. I'm going to step down. They ain't going to blame me for this. That's what's going on. Get out of Dodge. I'm the finance minister. They're not about to blame me. I'm your deputy prime minister. They're not about to blame me for this. Bye. People ducking for cover, y'all. Run! Trump coming. It's like Omar coming down the block.
Damn.
I was reading this. I said, damn, it's like Omar on the wire. Debo. They running for cover. Scroll down a little bit. Read right there. Her resignation incited.
Her resignation incited a growing chorus of voices from liberal parliamentarians asking him to step aside for the sake of the party and let someone else lead the party in general elections.
All right, scroll down a little bit. Now, this ain't the only problem they have. I want to see what Trump said. Yep. Keep scrolling. So they mentioned that he visited him in this article as well. Now watch this. The talks do not have appeared to have been fruitful. Watch. Trump met, we read that in the last article that Trudeau and Trump had a conversation. Watch what Trump says.
The talks do not appear to have been fruitful. In early December, Mr. Trump mocked Mr. Trudeau in a social media post, describing the Canadian Prime Minister as, quote, Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada.
Trump talking crazy. This is the pride. He said he's the governor of the great state of Canada. He said he's not even over a country. This is a state. Read the next part.
On Monday, Mr. Trump responded to Mr. Trudeau's resignation by again suggesting that Canada should become America's 51st state, saying on social media that if Canada merged with the U.S., taxes will decrease and there will be no tariffs.
Give me Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 18. All right, we could drop this article. Get the other one ready. This is what's going on in the world. This is important because people don't think the world is going to burn. They don't think America is going to burn. They don't think that's going to happen. Meanwhile, you're watching a man create enemies of his two next-door neighbors. Proverbs 16 and 18.
Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. Pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall.
And a haughty spirit before a fall. Give me Matthew 24 and verse 7. This prideful spirit is going to lead to the destruction of America. That's what's coming. They're not going to be able to talk crazy to everyone involved and tell people, I'm putting a taxation on you, and it just stand. Eventually, someone's going to say, yo, they got to go, man. Omar got to go. Give me that.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation.
America is going to rise against nations, and other nations are going to rise against nations. We see that happening all throughout the earth. Go ahead.
And kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places.
The famine will take place when you put a 25% taxation on what they bring into this country. It's going to impact the food economy because you know the supply chain is going from America into Canada, Canada back into America, America into Mexico, Mexico back into America. Now when Mexico has to pay 25% on whatever it brings in, why wouldn't they look for different trading partners? The only way to keep them in subjection is to say, look, if you don't trade with me, I'm going to put my foot on your neck. So it's going to get worse. Not only are they going to put the taxation on them, but then now they're going to try to abuse them and bully them into what? Continuing to trade with them. It's their second largest trading partner. Trump don't care about none of that. The Lord said, I'm going to put the basis of men in place. Let's just read the title of this article. That's all I want here.
Iran nuclear program nearing point of no return. Francis Macron says.
It says Iran's nuclear program is nearing the point of no return. Give me Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 16. I don't want to read it for time's sake, but y'all can look this up. These are the type of things that are being discussed in the world. There was a plan to stop Iran from ever getting nuclear weapons. Iran is very important in the scriptures, and we're going to see why. Give me Isaiah 54:16 first.
Isaiah chapter 54, verse 16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his works.
So the smith creates weapons. The Lord said, I created the smith, and he's going to bring forth an instrument. Go ahead.
And I have created the waster to destroy. No weapon that is formed against...
Nope, and I just want that. I've created the waster. The waster is going into the missiles that are going to be fired. The Lord said, I created Oppenheimer. He created death for you. That's what he's put into the earth. Iran is important. Give me Psalms 91 real quick and verse 5. Iran going to help play out the destruction of America. Psalms 91.
Psalms chapter 91, verse 5. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day.
The arrow there is going into those missiles that are going to fly, that are going to blow things up. We read that when we read 2 Peter chapter 3. These things are starting to line up. This is what's going to happen in the earth. The Lord said, I'm going to destroy Babylon. There's going to be an ambassador that rises up. And then there's going to be war on the earth. Give me 2 Ezra chapter 15 and verse 30. Let's read this now. Iran is important. Here's why. There's a missile being created for destruction. The Lord said, you don't need to be afraid of the missile. Those that are keeping my commandments and doing what I need you to do. But there are missiles being created. There's articles being written about it in Al Jazeera. You don't make missiles again just to hold them. They're not for museums. They're not to look at. They're not pieces of art. They're weapons of war. Read that.
2 Ezra chapter 15, verse 30. Also, the Carmanians.
The Carmanians are the Iranians. Also, the Carmanians.
And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them.
They are going to fight the Arabians, the people that descend from Ishmael. They're going to fight. Here's the evidence of it. They're preparing a nuclear weapons program that is reaching a point of no return. They're not making nukes for fun. They're not saying, let me make this nuke. Let's stare at them after we create them. Let's see what we could do with these. Maybe we'll just have them here and they'll get dusty. They're not going to get dusty. The Lord has a purpose on why Iran's nuclear program is reaching a point of no return. So with all these things happening in the earth, give me Matthew 24 and verse 42. With all this going on, you would think people saying, man, destruction's coming. What they making them nukes for? Why is Trump creating enemies of his neighbor? What's going on in the earth? But people are listening to Sexy Red. It's crazy. And Drake. Matthew 24 and 42.
Matthew chapter. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come, whom his Lord has made ruler over his house, his household, to give them meat in due season. Blessed is that servant whom his Lord when he cometh shall find so doing.
The Lord is looking for people that are keeping the laws of God when he returns. But many of our people, they don't give a damn about what the Lord wants them to do. What they're worried about is social media, TikTok, their own lust and desires. Instead of looking at the world and paying attention to it and saying, there's a destruction coming. And there's a reason why. Matthew 13 and verse 9. Let's jump there now. Despite seeing all of this, our people continue in sin and they continue to promote sin. Our people ain't paying attention to this. You can't go to nobody and say, hey, man, you heard, not the majority of people. Hey, you heard Trudeau step down? Are you watching the Iran nuclear program? Are you paying attention to what's going on in the news? But you that are keeping the commandments, all of this should be at the forefront of your mind on a daily. That's how you're going to survive what's going on. Matthew 13 and verse 9.
Matthew chapter 13, verse 9. Who has ears to hear, let him hear.
Okay, now we get into the topic. That's important right there, what the Lord said. Who have ears to hear, let them hear. Meaning some people will have an inability to hear and understand what I'm about to say to you. Some people are not going to be able to hear and understand. And we're going to get into that because we read the word hear there and we just say, okay, well, everybody can hear. Yes, everybody can perceive sound. Correct. But there's something deeper being said there. Go ahead.
Verse 10. And the disciples came and said unto him, why speakest thou unto them in parables?
So the disciples, they understood that Christ was speaking and teaching the people in parables. Read.
He answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given.
So to the disciples, he made it plain. It was given to them to understand the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. But to the others, if they wanted to learn, they would have to follow those men. Give me Revelation chapter 14 real quick. They would have to follow those men. They have to go to those men and say, what does this mean? What does that mean? Can you explain this? Can you break this down? Revelation chapter 14 and start at verse 1. Everybody will not be able to hear and understand. Everybody won't get the understanding plainly. But There are men that the Lord is going to set up that have that understanding. Revelation 14:1. Come on.
Revelation chapter 14, verse 1. And I looked, and lo, Lamb stood on the mountain Zion, on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written in their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung as it were a new song.
They sung as it were a new song. The song is going into the Bible. The understanding that the Israelites will fall away and that they will wake back up. He said, these 144,000 are going to sing a new song. Watch what he said.
Before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000, which were redeemed from the earth.
So the Lord said, no man can learn that song but this 144,000. So these select men in a proper order, starting with the apostles, will be given that understanding. They're going to be the ones that understand the song. They're going to be able to understand what's going on in the earth. Now go back now. Give me Matthew 13 and verse 11. Read it again. So everyone, you're not going to be able to go to them and get understanding. With all the destruction going on in the earth, you can't go have this conversation with just any old body. Because the Lord said, who have ears to hear, let them hear. Read that.
Matthew chapter 13, verse 11. He answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever has, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance, but whosoever has not, from him shall be taken away even that he has.
Read.
Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they see not.
They see, but they don't see spiritually. Come on.
And hearing, they hear not.
They hear, but they don't hear it spiritually. They don't receive it the way in which I would expect them to receive it. Come on.
Neither do they understand.
Read.
And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which said, by hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand. And seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing. And their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they shall see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and shall understand with their heart, and shall be converted, and I shall heal them.
So the Lord said if they could perceive this properly, they would change, they would repent. Now give me Isaiah 32 and verse 3, real quick. If they could hear this properly, if they could receive this message, then they will repent. But what's always interesting is we teach our people, and our people get frustrated with us. They can't hear the message behind what's actually being said. They get into a fit where they say, you should talk to them nicer. You shouldn't say it like that. You should deal with it like this. Why are you mentioning this? What does this have to do with black people? That Bible's a white man's book. So instead of hearing the message out of it, they grow in anger. Read that.
Isaiah chapter 33, verse 3. And the noise of the tumult.
Isaiah 32 and 3. Come on. See,
Isaiah.
you ain't hearing right now. Isaiah 32 and 3. I told you. Black
Isaiah,
people. Come on, 32 and 3.
chapter 32, verse 3. And the eyes of them that see shall not be dim, and the ears of them that hear shall hearken.
The eyes of them that hear shall hearken. Interesting. It used the word hear and it used the word hearken. Use the word hear and it used the word hearken. I know I sent y'all that definition. I think I wanted to get it later. Let me see. All right. I gave you it on 1828, didn't I? All right, give me that one too. All right, go ahead.
Hearken. 1. To listen, to lend the ear, to attend to what is uttered with eagerness or curiosity.
To listen, to lend ear, to attend to what is uttered. So rather than just hearing sound, you're listening intently, right? Now give me the definition of listen. Give me that one.
The definition of listen. Number 1, to hearken, to give ear, to attend closely with a view to hear.
Go ahead.
Number 2, To obey, to yield, to advise, to follow admonition.
Okay, so what our people see in that verse, the Lord says certain people are going to hear and hearken, meaning they're not only going to perceive sound, which is what a lot of black folk do. We just hear sound. Give me that video. When people talk to us, we just hear sound. We hear wah, 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 wah. Everybody's Charlie Brown to us because we're in our mind and we're not hearing anything. God said there's going to be people on the earth that hear, and then they're going to hearken. They're going to do things after they hear these words. It's actually going to connect to their brain. We're going to see why that's important in a second, but I want to start here. Hit play on this video.
Difference between listening and hearing. Hearing and listening are two different concepts. Hearing refers to the physical process of perceiving sound. It is one of the five senses and it simply happens. Listening, on the other hand, is the act of hearing a sound. It requires concentration so that the brain can process what is being said. Listening uses different senses, like the eyes and brain, to understand what is being communicated.
So now read Matthew chapter 13 again and read verse 15. Watch what he said. When we just said that, it said listening uses different things, like the eyes and the brain to understand what is being communicated. Watch what Christ said in Matthew 13 and verse 15.
Matthew chapter 13, verse 15. For this people's heart is waxed gross.
This people's mind is waxed gross. It's filthy. Go ahead.
And their ears are dull of hearing.
Their ears do not work properly. Remember, listening requires your brain and your ears. What else does it require? Go ahead.
And their eyes they have closed.
And their eyes are shut spiritually. So now the things that they should be able to utilize for their understanding, they cannot use. I blinded them in that regard. There's going to be people on the earth like that. That's what he's saying. Go ahead.
Lest at any time they should see with their eyes
Spiritually.
and hear with their ears.
They're going to hear things and they're actually going to listen. They're going to say, you know what? I heard that sound, but now let me use my brain to actually process it with the scriptures. Read.
And should understand with their heart and should be converted, and I should heal them.
He's going to heal them through that process that I expect. He's not just talking about you hear sound. Some of us come to the Sabbath, we just hear sound. We get corrected, we just hear sound. You don't actually use your brain to receive it and say, you know what, I got to do something behind what's being said. I can see spiritually what needs to be done. I'm thinking about it. I'm meditating on it. Nah, it's just a lot of words coming at you. It's like a lovely song. And this is where we've caught ourselves. The Lord said there's going to be people like that in the last days. Those are the same people we read about in the beginning who walk after their own lust despite hearing the sound of the Bible and knowing what has happened in the past because they're dull of hearing. Keep reading.
Verse 16. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear.
The Lord said, blessed are your eyes and your ears, for they see and they hear. Meaning what? They can actually listen. They can perceive sound and consciously think about what's happening. There's some people that can't do that. Jump to Matthew 13 and verse 47.
Matthew chapter 13, verse 47. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net.
So he explains in the same chapter the kingdom of heaven being like a net. Go ahead.
That was cast into the sea and gathered of every kind.
Every kind there refers to every kind of men being gathered into the congregation, into the nation. They're being taught to. That's what the fishers of men do. They go out and they teach the people. Read.
Which, when it was full, they drew to shore, and sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but cast the bad away. So shall it be at the end of the world. The angels shall come forth and serve the wicked from among the just.
So the wicked is going to be removed from the just. So just like in the time of Christ, there was wicked men among him. There was men that they did not perceive what was coming out. Judas didn't perceive what was coming out. Christ was running around teaching, trying to heal people, and he still couldn't say, you know what? I got a thieving spirit. Let me tell Christ so he could take this up off me. He was not able to get healed because he was unable to hear. That's what we got to understand. So everybody's not going to listen. Even while this class is coming out, people might be on their phones, doing other things. You're distracted. Your attention is being grabbed by the TV, your son, your daughter, whatever it may be, because this message is just words. The Lord says some people, they're going to hear this. They're going to stop in their tracks. They're going to say, that's what I need to turn to. I need to repent. That's why the title is The Ears, E-A-R, to the Kingdom. Some people got the ears to the kingdom. Other people do not. Some people are the wicked that are going to be seven in the last days. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 12. Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 12. And that's what we got to be able to look at within ourselves. Do I listen? Am I attentive? Do I hearken? We always read hearken. We want to tell people, yeah, it means listen. Yeah, brother. Give me Deuteronomy 28. Yeah, hearken, brother. Then somebody corrects you. They say, do this. You say, all right. You go to the house. I ain't finna do that. You don't listen. Read that.
Hebrews chapter 5, verse 12. For when for the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have the need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God.
So coming in, we humble ourselves. We said the first thing is that we need to be taught. How you going to be taught? People are going to teach you. They're going to speak to you. Come on.
And are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. For everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe.
You come in as a babe. Go ahead.
But strong meat belongeth to them that are full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil.
So the senses allow you to what? Discern good and evil. They have to be exercised, right? Give me Sirach chapter 17 and verse 5. What did the Lord give us to understand good and evil? These things have to be exercised, meaning they have to go through a process of being trained to discern good and evil. Certain people are not going to train their ears. Certain people are not going to exercise their senses. Read that, Sirach 17 and verse 5.
Sirach chapter 17, verse 5. They received the use of 5 operations of the Lord, and in the 6th place he imparted them understanding, and in the 7th speech, an interpreter of cogitations thereof.
So he gave them speech, which was an interpreter of the cogitations thereof. Meaning what? He gave them the ability to do several things, but the whole goal was that they would understand. They would be able to understand and communicate it back. They would be able to meditate, think. So when the Lord said I blinded them, I made sure that their heart don't work, meaning their mind. I made sure that their eyes can't see spiritually, and I made sure they can't hear a damn thing. He destroyed your ability to grow. So these basic things we may think, oh, I listen well. No, you don't. Your lack of listening is stopping you from growing in the spirit. Keep reading.
Counsel.
He gave us counsel.
And a tongue.
Read.
And eyes.
He gave us eyes. We read that in Matthew. He gave us eyes spiritually. Come on.
Ears.
He gave us ears, not to hear sound, but to listen. And when you listen, you receive the sound and you use your brain. That's what it says next. And what else?
And a heart.
And a mind. Go ahead.
Gave he them to understand.
He gave you those things with the purpose that you would be able to understand. So when he blinded that for some people, he closed the kingdom to them. They don't have the ears to get to the kingdom of heaven. Read.
Withal, he filled them with the knowledge of understanding and showed them good and evil.
He did what?
And showed them good and evil.
He used those things to show them good and evil. Now they were able to see evil. Evil. They said, whoa, that speech is evil. Some of y'all murmur because you can't hear evil. You always running your mouth because you can't hear evil. You always complaining because you can't hear evil. You don't know what evil sounds like. Your senses are not exercised. Somebody could call you and say, you know what, bro? I don't like that fat dude that be sitting at the table teaching. He going to talk about my ears. What the hell wrong with him? Going to talk about my ears. Then you be on the phone for 45 minutes talking about that in a circle. Instead of you saying, excuse me, sir, I think that's murmuring. You need to stop. Go ahead, call that brother, because you don't know what evil sound like. Give me Proverbs 23 and 9. So the Lord said those things have to be exercised, meaning there's a process through which they have to go and grow. Somebody got to say, what did they say to you? They said X, Y, and Z. That's evil. Whoa. Okay, next time I hear it, I'll know what evil sounds like. But when the Lord said, close his ears up, don't allow him to hear evil, well, you're going to murmur into the grave. Proverbs 23 and 9.
Proverbs chapter 23, verse 9. Speak not in the ears of a fool, for he will despise the wisdom of thy words.
You can't speak to a fool. You know why? A fool can't hear anything that's beneficial to them. The Lord said, I don't want them to hear it. Don't give them the ears that allow them to grow. Don't allow them to do that. So there's some people, pull up that infographic I gave you. There's some people that have an inability to listen. You could talk to them all day. Some of y'all got mamas like that. You be like, "Mom, this is what happened." Mom. Like, listen, Linda. Linda, listen. Listen. Let's read this. I just want to look at the difference between hearing and listening. We watched a video on it, but I want to reflect our minds back on this. Come on.
Listening versus hearing. Hearing is passive. Listening is active. Refers to the act of perceiving a sound through the ear. Hearing refers to the act of making a conscious effort to perceive the sound.
So you making an effort. When you're listening, when you're hearkening, you say, I hear somebody talking. I'm going to stop my brain and focus on what it is they're saying so I can actually receive a message. I'm going to process it with my brain. I'm actively doing that. Go ahead.
Listening does not require a conscious effort.
Hearing does not require a conscious effort.
Hearing requires...
No, listening. You flipping it back. Yep.
Hearing does not require a conscious effort.
Come on.
Listening requires a conscious effort.
There you go.
Hearing involuntary.
Hearing is involuntary. If you hear cars, you hear people talking outside, you hear your wife sometimes, you don't want to hear what she got to say. It's involuntary. You're like, damn, shut up. I don't want to hear it. It's involuntary. But if you were listening to her, it would be voluntary. You'll say, what do you got to say? You would stop what you're doing. You would say, let me receive this message. Sisters, you got to make sure your husband's listening to you before you start talking. He might be hearing you, but he can't listen to you unless it requires a conscious effort. That means you cannot talk to him while he's doing something. I'm going to share something. If he's doing something, you go and you start talking, then you do not he has no ability to listen in that moment. Give me Job chapter 34 and verse 3 now. And a lot of time, you men, you do the same thing to your wives. Your wives have no ability to listen to you because they can't consciously hear it. That's just a side note. Back to the topic. To the Negroes that don't listen. Job 34 and 3.
Job chapter 34, verse 3. For the ear tried words as the mouth tasted meat.
Your ears are to try words. This has to be exercised. It's to hear words, and it's supposed to perceive, are these good or evil words? Just like when you taste food, you say, is this good food or is this nasty? If it's nasty, you spit it out. You put it back on a plate. You throw it up. Your ears are supposed to do the same thing. Black people's ears don't work. You could put anything in them. They allow you to poison their brains with the music they listen to every single day. They allow evil communication all around them. Their conversation is not godly because their ears are not exercised to discern between good and evil. Sirach 36 and verse 19. That's what our ears are for. The Lord didn't just put ears on your body so you could walk around not hearing nobody. Everybody telling you, hey, man, hey, you need to fix this. Uh-huh. Hey, bro, hey, if you did this, you would be better off. Uh-huh. Read that.
Sirach chapter 36, verse 19. As the palate tasted diverse kinds of venison, so does a heart of understanding false speeches.
A mind that has understanding will use those ears to understand, oh, that's a false speech. That was a lie I was just told. That was something evil. Now that those ears are working to your benefit. Proverbs 21 and verse 16. But if your ears are not working to your benefit where you can understand between good and evil, you'll entertain anything. Read that.
Proverbs chapter 21, verse 16. The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead.
You can wander out of the way of understanding by what's said to you. You can wander out of that way because you don't have an ability to hear and understand the message and receive it properly. Now you'll wander out of the way of understanding. You'll get in your feelings. You'll get emotional. You'll be mad at somebody. Some of you wives do that. Your husband tells you something that's very true according to the Bible. Same way with you brothers, you get corrected and you get in your feelings because you're not actually listening. You don't know how to listen. You deal with emotion, and that emotion causes you to wander. Instead of using those ears to say, what is the message I'm supposed to be receiving? Let me actively engage in that process. I hear a loud tone. I hear a stern voice. But let me pause and say, what is the message here? What is the goal of what's being said to me? Let me try to understand that. That's what the wise man does. That's why I said don't speak in the ears of a fool, because the fool will be upset at you for a message that you're trying to communicate to better them. They won't be able to receive it because their ears are not given to them in order to inhabit the kingdom of heaven. Those are the people. Give me Acts chapter 7 and verse 51. These are these type of men. Acts 7 and verse 51. Even though you talk to them, Stephen in this whole chapter, he had a long speech for these men. Watch what they